Hello everyone, my friends. I hope you're doing well. Today, once again, we'll talk about the massive contradiction between what we see on the global stage and what's actually happening behind the scenes. Right now, the headlines talk about the Russia-Ukraine war, the Israel-Iran conflict, the collapse of the West, the Zangezur Corridor, Israel's growing isolation, and the rising waves of migration. Yes, we'll talk about all that. But the real issue? It's not the visible conflict. The real issue is that agreements have already been made, and they're being implemented rapidly behind the curtain. Let's begin. First, we are going through a massive crisis, but this is not chaos. This is a controlled transition. We're seeing wars across the world, economic collapses, social unrest, and falling governments. But behind it all is a carefully managed shift, a controlled chaos, a controlled transformation. The new world order is not being built through total war, but through secret agreements, masked by crises. Nothing you see today is random. Nothing happened naturally, and nothing will end on its own. Even the Israel-Iran conflict will not just end. Let me be clear. Conflict is one thing. War is another. Jihad is something else. What we're witnessing now is a conflict. Second, let's talk about the role shift between the globalists, the nationalists, and the deeper system within. In public, the story goes: globalists are losing, nationalists are winning. But that's only half the truth. Behind the scenes, the new system is being built through negotiations between the old global power centers and the rising nation states. It might look like the globalists are losing, but in reality, the system is restructuring itself from within. Everything we are witnessing today is part of this restructuring, even the US involvement in Iran. The entire MAGA community, once Trump's biggest support base, is now openly turning against him. Why? Because he said he would fight the globalists, but now he walks alongside them. What does this tell us? It tells us Trump has not yet gained the strength to truly fight them. Now, let's move to the next topic. Israel's weakening position and the slow but clear recognition of Palestine. Israel has lost its psychological dominance. Its so-called Iron Dome is no longer iron. It's full of holes. Today, 7 out of 10 missiles easily make it through. Civilians are hiding in shelters or fleeing the country. This loss of control has spilled as far as southern Cyprus, turning into a new wave of underground money and power. Let me be specific. The Greek side of Cyprus, a Christian population, is now hosting large numbers of incoming Jewish migrants. It looks peaceful for now, but soon there will be complaints. Then louder protests, and eventually a major crisis. Meanwhile, in the West, support for Israel is fading. European countries are now debating a second arms embargo against Israel. This signals a turning point, a phase where Israel is no longer seen as a strategic ally, but rather as a burden and possibly abandoned. But we are still at the very beginning of this shift. Now let me explain the real power dynamics, the real geopolitical chessboard. The United States, China, Russia, and a few key regional players are currently playing a new game of balance. If the US fully enters a war, it will trigger China to move on Taiwan and Russia to strike deeper into Ukraine. And that would lead the world into a chaos with no return. That's why the US is trying to freeze all current conflicts, not to end them, but to control them. Countries like Iran and Israel are being pushed inward, forced into isolation and made ineffective. You'll see. After all these so-called wars, Iran will be pulled inward. Its borders will be clearly defined. And Israel, same story. It will be boxed in with new limits. That's the actual outcome of everything happening right now. In global projects, you must always question what's real and what's staged. Take the Zangezur Corridor, for example. On the surface, you see debates, politicians arguing, citizens protesting, foundations issuing statements. But behind the scenes, infrastructure is almost complete. The division of roles is already done. For example, Azerbaijan's section of the corridor is 93% finished, and Armenia's part nearly 80% complete. Yet in public it's as if nothing has even started. The conflict is visible, but the agreement is hidden. A new system is being built, quietly. Let's talk about the new type of warfare: demographic engineering, perception management, social restructuring. Today's wars are no longer about tanks and missiles. They're fought with migration waves, engineered population shifts, the destruction of families, the isolation of the individual, and the weaponization of media. They want to break the family unit. They push the idea: you are strong on your own. You don't need anyone. Why? Because a disconnected individual is much easier to control. And perception wars? Far more effective than conventional wars. Let me repeat. We must teach the sociology of technology starting from elementary school. This is urgent. Now let's talk about Turkey. From many parts of Europe, the US, and elsewhere, Turkey is still viewed as a third world country, but most of those people have never even visited. They've never walked its streets, breathed its air, or seen its reality. They imagine kings ruling here. They don't realize how wrong they are. Why? Because global media, news agencies, social media platforms, they've all been programmed to create this illusion. But the truth? The heart of all these global crises is moving toward Istanbul. From Russia-Ukraine to Iran-Israel to the future of Palestine now. The roadmap will pass through Turkey. Turkey is becoming the most strategic player in both regional and global balance. It will gain the most, but also take the biggest risks. Let me end with a vision for the future. Just like what we saw after the pandemic, a new global system will be implemented overnight. Remember the pandemic? Everything was foggy. No one knew what was real. Then suddenly, it was declared over and life went back to normal. That's how it will happen again. What we're seeing now, all these debates, all these tensions, are preparing societies for one thing: a massive, unexpected shift. This collapse won't take years. The change will be fast and irreversible. And when it's done, a new world order will appear, multi-centered, shared, based on quiet agreements. And no one will resist. Everyone will accept it. This is my message for today, friends. We will continue to uncover the real codes behind global markets, the invisible chessboard of geopolitics, and the truths hidden behind the scenes. We'll go even deeper. We'll cover broader topics. This channel is still very new. And today's topics, each one of them could take hours, but we'll shape the direction step by step. So keep following us, keep questioning, and keep thinking. See you in the next episode.